Tonight at 10, heavy criticism of Downing Street for those lockdown parties. The initial report identifies failures of leadership and judgment. Boris Johnson, who once denied that any rules had been broken, was keen to tell MPs and the people of the UK that he was sorry. No fewer than 16 separate gatherings were investigated, including 3 not previously known about. Mr Johnson accepted the findings and faced severe criticism.
It isn't enough to say sorry. This is a moment when we must look at ourselves in the mirror and we must learn.
By routinely breaking the rules he set, the Prime Minister took us all for fools. He held people sacrificing contempt. He showed himself unfit for office.
We report from 2 Conservative constituencies, asking people if the Prime Minister's apology was enough.
And I'm sure it wouldn't have happened under previous Prime Ministers and stuff. I don't think they would have been doing it with Theresa May, put it that way.
I would love to believe that he was sorry and he would fix it, but till the next time.
Yes, we'll have more on the findings, which will be published in full when the police investigation has been completed. Also tonight, ministers are planning to scrap mandatory COVID vaccinations for health and social care workers in England. And thousands of homes in parts of Scotland and the northeast of England are still without power after 2 storms in recent days.
And coming up in the sport on the BBC News channel. TikTok is the transfer deadline clock. Could Dele Alli, Jesse Lingard or Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang be making moves before the window shuts?
Good evening. Well, if Boris Johnson was hoping that the initial report into lockdown parties in Downing Street would draw a line under the scandal, he was clearly mistaken. The summary of findings by Sue Gray, a senior civil servant, is heavily critical of Number 10. And a growing number of Conservatives have been openly hostile to the Prime Minister, despite his apology and his promise to look in the mirror and learn. Now, the report says at a time when ministers were asking citizens to severely limit their lives, some of the behaviour surrounding the gatherings is difficult to justify, and some events clearly should not have been allowed. It goes on to identify failures of leadership and judgment in parts of Number 10 and the Cabinet Office in Whitehall. Some staff said that they had wanted to raise concerns about the gatherings, but they had felt unable to do so. Well, after increasingly vocal demands by senior Conservative MPs today, the report will now be published in full after the police investigation into possible criminal behaviour has been completed. It's thought that detectives have obtained hundreds of photos of alleged gatherings in Number 10 and Whitehall as part of their inquiry. Today, Boris Johnson, over in the House of Commons, addressed his MPs in a private meeting, trying to fend off more calls for him to step down. Our political editor, Laura Kuensberg, reports on the day's events.